Can a crypto game actually be fun for non-crypto bros, or does NFT still stand for not a fun time? What's up, y'all? This is Beat the Best, and today I'm going to take a look at a game called BEM, which is one of the top crypto bro games right now and a candidate for the most innovative NFT and gaming project as a leading Web3 game and the first game ever to shift away from traditional pay-to-win models, along other top projects like Pudgy Penguins, whose big achievement is a $9 million crowdfunding campaign for plush toys based on their NFTs. Alright, so I'm going to take a look at their gameplay, their promises like being a true AAA gaming experience, and see if this game can actually be fun for someone who loves gaming and doesn't care about crypto at all. Now, when I first jump into the game, I immediately get hit with this big, impossible to miss warning. Okay, I get it, you're still in early access, but this really makes me question, what is the gameplay actually going to look like? But before we take a look at the gameplay, let's see how much money has been invested into this game so we can properly manage our expectations, because it's still in early access, right? They first raised $10.3 million from venture capital investors in May of 2021, which makes sense. Games are expensive, that's fine, but that was just the start, because in July 22nd, they released their first batch of NFTs, with VIP access passes starting at $179 and going for as high as $499 if you wanted to get the earliest possible access to the game. But of course, that is not all, because they also sold digital postcards, character animations, and they had an auction for concept art that ended up selling for $25,000. Now, this got complicated fast, so I had to make a spreadsheet to keep track of all the drops, prices, and amounts. And in total, they made approximately $3 million from this first sale. Now, you'd think that was enough, right? But they got a taste for the money, and there was no stopping them, because they did another mystery box sale, and another, and then another, for a nice $1.8 million from these mystery boxes and $4.8 million from NFT drops in total. But wait, there's more, because what good is an NFT game if they didn't have any NFT land inside of it? So on December of 21st of 2021, they dropped what they call Space, which is their version of virtual land. Now, their first drop was just 10% of their total space allocated, which came out to a very nice $38 million. Okay, let's get into the game. Nah, I'm just kidding. There was one more drop, and once again, it was space, but it was the highest rarity of it, which basically just meant you could add other high rarity NFTs inside of it to make high rarity cosmetics. And it gets complicated. I'll explain this whole cosmetics thing a little bit later. This time though, they only got $25 million, so that was a little bit sad. But keep in mind, this is before anyone was actually able to play any part of the game. Alright, so with that in mind, let's take a look at what this innovative AAA NFT and gaming project has to offer gameplay-wise. I start the game, choose one of the 4 classes, and I'm immediately thrown into a cave with zero explanation of how I got there. The previous screen told me I was summoned to the end of the universe to defend time itself, but why did they put me in the cave? It's like they played Breath of the Wild and they decided, hey, starting from a cave makes sense, it's what games do, right? So I run around, I discover that there is zero momentum, so you can literally sprint full speed in one direction, immediately turn and then sprint in the other direction, or you can kind of just rotate around while sprinting in place like a helicopter. Very fun. Of course, there's probably more to this game. It's not just a helicopter type game, so I talked to the tutorial bot, got the basic instructions on how movement works, talked to another bot that taught me how combat worked, and ran out of the cave. Now, I feel like they tried to recreate that coming out of the cave moment in Breath of the Wild, or the coming out of the vault moment in Fallout, but it falls completely flat. Maybe if they moved the falling apart sun so you could actually see it when you're coming out of the cave, and remove the ridiculous amount of gray rock and make it a little bit more impactful, then maybe, but it was just disappointing. Anyway, I follow my quest marker, talk to the cat, find a note, and that opens up a portal which leads me to the Frost Caverns where Erwin Schrödinger is located. Now, this area actually reminded me a bit of Dungeons & Dragons Online, which is a game I really loved, but it was released back in 2006, so this is truly a modern AAA game indeed. I find Erwin Schrödinger, and I'm immediately welcomed by this game's incredible dialogue. Random exclamation points, a comically strong German accent, and writing that feels like bad fanfiction. Now, Erwin does do one cool thing. He shows me the fighting combo system, which honestly isn't half bad. I'll talk more about it later, but at least it's a little bit interesting and somewhat unique. Of course, Irvin sends me on a fetch quest, which, frankly, at this point, I've got no idea what's going on, and there really doesn't seem to be much of a story. All I know is I've been summoned, and I gotta pass this random trial and fetch this random thing so I can move on to the next stage, so that's good enough for me, I guess. I easily dispatch the first mini-boss and his minions, and I see that the items dropped are way too high of a level for me, which is a bit annoying, but oh well. I move on, dispatch another pair of mini-bosses, and at this point I'm already getting kind of bored. The combat is simple, the enemies are boring, and my only hope is that they're taking it slow because it's a tutorial. I mean, I only have one ability right now after all. So I fight another mini-boss, and he drops what I assume is a guaranteed premium currency drop. I'm 50 minutes into the game, and they've already made sure to let me know that there are premium currencies, which is better than most crypto games. Usually they shove it right on your face from the very beginning. Anyway, I spent some time chilling with the boys until after 5 seconds they decided they didn't like me anymore and they tried to kill me. And then in the boss arena, I'm welcomed by a very exciting new mob, another bug, just bigger. He wasn't hard to beat, so I picked up the loot, loaded up my skills, and got out of there. But let's talk about that skill tree for a second. There are active and passive skills plus the typical player stats like strength, intelligence, and the rest. The thing is though, you can't level up all of the skills even when your level is high enough. You first have to find a random NPC to have them unlock a certain skill for you, and then you can put points there. I was later told in chat that these NPC spawns aren't even guaranteed, and if they don't show up, just switch servers until they do. Why? What's the point of this? I have no idea. Anyway, back to the story, if you can even call it a story at this point. The cat eats my token, and I go into yet another portal which sends me to an NPC village where I see 0 active players. Erwin gives me a shopping quest to teach me how to buy items from the shop, and then he gives me 2 other fetch quests. Now, I'm doing these because I need to travel to Time's End. Why? How? What's the reason? I guess the sun is exploding, but realistically, I have no idea. So I go into another dungeon where I see the exact same enemies, but at least time there's some lush greenery around. Anyway, I close the portal, run through the level, and fight the same exact boss as last time. Very fun, AAA experience. I go back to Schrödinger hoping for some actual variety and hoping the tutorial ends soon, and he sends me on yet another fetch quest. Of course, what did I expect? I have to sprint for about a minute through the empty overworld, so I have enough time to reconsider my life choices and poor decisions that brought me here to play this NFT game. But in the dungeon, something exciting happens. New enemies, and not 1, not 2, but 3. I kill them easily, but at least there's some variety, right? I pick up the herbs I need and then decide to chill in a cactus where the enemies can't get me, because pathing is hard. And then in the boss arena, I actually get a 2-for-1. First, I'm hit with a great view of the pyramids, and second, I almost die trying to kill both bosses at once. Now, this isn't because they were hard, but it's because the game's combat is awkward and dodging is ineffective and just strange. You have to double tap WASD to dodge the attacks. It's a strange way to do it, and it's a lot more effective to just turn around, sprint away, and then drink a health potion somewhere else in peace. But even with all of that, and with this great view and this newfound challenge, I found myself almost enjoying this game. Like, I wouldn't play it for fun because there are so many other better games out there, but at least it feels and it plays mostly like a real game, which is a lot more than I can say for all of the other crypto games out there. On the run back from the dungeon, I have plenty of time to reevaluate my choices once again. And I feel like they're trying to recreate a Breath of the Wild-esque experience, but with how awkward the combat feels right now, that is definitely a ways away. There's no animation canceling, you can't move when you attack, and the abilities are pretty basic. And now when I return to Erwin, he immediately brightens my day with my very own personal metaverse. Because why not, right? Every game needs its own metaverse. There must be like thousands of them by now. Wasn't the whole point of the metaverse that there just be one? Not one for each game? Because at this point, the metaverse is just a part of the game. Like, would you call Fallout 4's base building mechanic creating your own metaverse? What about Path of Exile's hideout? Like, is that also a metaverse? Anyway, I load in, I craft a weapon gem, and when I exit my very own personal metaverse, I finally encounter my very first real life in-game player. Of course, I can't do anything else with them yet because we're still in the tutorial, but it's nice to know I'm not completely alone in this game. Of course, Schrodinger gives me another fetch quest, and I complete the dungeon fighting the same boss for a third time. But then the game decides to go in a very different creative direction, turning into only up. No, seriously. They gave me a jumping obstacle course that had literally zero reason to be there and was zero fun, especially with how floaty the character is, how weird the animation changes when you jump and land, and it felt basically like only up, which makes sense because both games are built using Unreal Engine and probably maintain a lot of the same default physics. Once that's done though, I'm sent to the Siphon, which has a cool gimmick where blocks don't appear until you're close to them, which gets completely old after about 15 seconds. It's basically a pseudo-labyrinth, and while it's not really hard, it's also not fun. Getting through this area only took me 6 minutes, but honestly stepping on Legos for 6 minutes probably would have been more fun. Like, does this appearing and disappearing walkway look like a fun way to spend 2 minutes of your life? No, yeah, I didn't think so. Anyway, I beat the new boss, which is an actual big health bar, and this time I feel like at least I have to use my abilities properly. And it's not hard, but I do have to heal once, which is exciting. With that, I finally get out of the tutorial. I unlock player parties, talk to Schrodinger, who gives me another pocket watch, and as I go off in search of adventure, something really strange happens, and honestly it's almost embarrassing talking about it, which is why before we get into that, let's take a break from gaming and talk about the economy. First, because I need a break. The tutorial took me almost an hour and a half to get done, and I had fun for maybe 3 minutes total, maybe 1. And second, because that is their big differentiator. Because otherwise, what's the point of using NFTs unless it's just a blatant cash grab? In their wiki, they say their game economy is transparent, simple, and realistic, and that they are inviting players to be deeply rooted in their business model. So let's see if that really is true. Now, I do have to give them a little credit, because unlike other crypto games, NFTs are not required to play the game, and they're purely cosmetic items, or a way to basically play to earn, which I'll explain later, but they're not required to play this game, which is a nice touch. But where does this whole deeply rooted thing come from? It's this wild idea that instead of the game studio creating skins and selling them directly to the players, just like how Valorant, CSGO, League of Legends, Fortnite, and basically every self-respecting, slightly cash-grabbing game does, they decided, hey, why not add extra steps between the company creating the skin and players actually being able to use it. Extra steps that require players to put in real time and real money to craft those skins. But hey, at least the economy is simple and realistic, right? Well, I spent about an hour reading their wiki, and here's how it all works. Players can craft different skins. Pretty simple. But to craft skins, you need to first have an armory or a forge, which requires either buying and opening a mystery box, which costs real money, or purchasing them directly from their marketplace, which once again costs real money. Now there's a lot more that goes into how forges work, but even the basics I'm going to go over are complicated enough, so we're going to skip all of the details. Okay, let's say you bought a forge. You can now craft skins, right? Well, no, because you first need space. Remember that digital land they sold for like $60 million? Yeah, that. And of course, you need to use real money to buy it. Okay, fine. Let's say you buy space, so you have space to put your forge. Is that it? Well, I'm sure you can already tell the answer is no. Because to actually craft anything, you first need to take 50 cosmetic shards, which technically you can get for free as random mob drops, but in the 4 hours of playing the game, I've gotten 0 of them. Or you can once again buy it on their marketplace, but this time I couldn't even find any listings, which was weird, but that's just the start. Because you need to take those shards and refine them, which takes in-game time and possibly their crypto big time. I'm not 100% sure on that last part because their wiki is a little bit of a mess, but I'm confident that to actually craft these cosmetics, you do need big time. Currently, they're at about 50 cents a coin, so at a 50 token minimum, it costs 25 bucks to craft an item. But what if you don't want to just buy big time straight up though? Of course, there's a way to earn them by playing the game. Not as a free player though. First, you need an hourglass, which earns you big time when you complete dungeons. You can either purchase an hourglass straight from the store, with the cheapest one being $18 right now, or you can craft one with a time warden. And of course, time wardens cost real money. The cheapest one right now is about $400. But eventually, you'll need a time warden anyway, because each hourglass is only active for a limited amount of time, and then you need to recharge it with, you guessed it, real money. It costs 300 time crystals, another currency, to get 90 minutes of active time, and at $5 for 500 crystals, that's $3. Or you can pay $15 for 6 hours of active time, which is an absolute steal, I guess. Oh, and if you wanted to craft the hourglass from scratch, it's actually just $1.5 of in-game currency after you invest into all of the expensive stuff, of course. Now, all of this is done to solve the problem of players not being able to sell or trade their cosmetics. I mean, CSGO seems to have figured it out, and basically what the crypto bros are saying is if Fortnite implements a player trading store like Steam, there's no reason to have this convoluted, unnecessary NFT-based system? Interesting. But okay, maybe it is a little bit complicated and the actual exchange values have to keep getting adjusted because of the big problem with any crypto game, which I'll address later, but at least it's sustainable and durable, right? Well, is an $8,500 purchase so you can earn in-game currency sustainable and durable? What about a $30,000 axe? Now I know there are some CSGO skins that cost a lot of money, but CSGO has an average of 700,000 players every single day. Big Time has maybe 15,000 players on total, and that's being generous considering that the number of people on their leaderboard right now is 5,000. Speaking of the leaderboard, the top player wins $450,000 worth of Big Time coins based on the current coin price, and that may seem like a lot, but most of these actions to get these points require you to spend real money. Sure, you can get some points from free to play, but that doesn't get you anywhere close to the top of the leaderboard. So who knows how much money the top player spent on the game? And you want to know something funny? Remember that space sale where they made $25 million and sold space for as much as $10,000? Well, on their market right now, I can buy that same space for just $7,500, which is more than a 25% discount a year after it was released. Now, that didn't look so great, so I went on their Discord server to figure out what was happening with the economy. And I saw that they were struggling to balance it and the players weren't happy. Although one player was super happy because he calculated that if you play 8 hours a day, you can make a whole $2 to $3 every single day. Now, I could probably make more money begging on the street for an hour or two. I know I could make more money begging on the street for an hour or two. But another genius, in response to the complaints about the balance changes, said that everyone can win.
There are so many different ways to profit in this economy. If you can just get your foot in the door, take the road less traveled, and be patient. And the smart people keep their profit method niche secret. There's profit on the table for everyone, and the devs do want it to be that way.
What he's describing is literally running a business. And sure, if you get your foot in the door, are clever and patient, and run it like a business, you might be able to make money. But the idea that there's a profit on the table for everyone makes zero sense from an economic perspective, and I'll show you why in just a second. But this guy seems to be close to getting it though. He realized that for the game to make money, someone has to lose money. Put in $2.23, get out $2.01. Wow, you mean the company wants to actually make money, and for it to make money, the players need to put in more money than then take out? What a wild concept. And as a little cherry on top, a crypto bro who probably deifies a player-based market with no restrictions, surprise surprise, is asking for restrictions. The comedy is writing itself at this point. Now, I could do this forever, and I still haven't addressed the inherent problem I believe is at the heart of all crypto games, but it's time to get back to the actual gameplay to see if there's anything fun we can do outside of the tutorial. The first thing I did was try out each of the classes available, and the ability to switch between multiple classes or multiple different loadouts of the same class is kind of fun, and I have to give them props for it. The Chronomancer, which is the mage, is actually kind of fun to play. Now, the fact that you can't cast spells while moving is a bit strange, but with some polish, this whole character switching system could actually be fun. Now, I stuck with my old Time Warrior because he was a higher level, and I couldn't find that trainer to give my Chronomancer an additional fireball. And at this point, I was pretty much free to do whatever I wanted. The game still had quest-based dungeons, but random dungeons also popped up all over the map. So I ran around the map, talked to a Nightmare Dr. Octopus version of BEM FRANKLIN, and found another waypoint which required in-game gold to use. Now the good news is, this is just the good old regular gold that drops from dungeon mobs, so while it's a bit absurd, it's not a complete money grab. Although in my travels, I did encounter this player who had 5 legendary hourglasses, which start at like $2,500 each. He had 5 emotes, which are $4 on the low end and $100 on the high, and pretty much each of his item slots had a cosmetic in it. Anyway, I ran through a couple more dungeons, so let's play a fun game called Spot the Difference. But first, here's a fun fact. You can pay to add bonus modifiers to dungeons, with real money, of course. Anyway, spot the difference. Ready? Take a look at this, now this, and now this. looks kind of similar, doesn't it? Not a whole ton of variety here, but it's truly a triple A $80 million experience. Now, I did have a cool moment where I entered a portal and was sent to the Siphon or whatever, but because of crappy platforming controls and the fact that I didn't really care, I just fell down and died. And I then went to another dungeon where I discovered an Epoch chest, which costs $15 to unlock. Like, are you kidding me? Why not make every action in the game paid? Each step you take, you have to pay 2 cents. Each spell you cast, you pay 10 cents. Come on. I beat the dungeon, but at this point, I didn't even want to play anymore because any possible part of the fun of the game has been overshadowed by the money hungriness of the developers. Now, I do think the game could eventually be fun. I do think the team has the capacity to make a fun game. And I think if they dedicated all of their time towards that, they could create something awesome. But the problem is, I don't think they will. Because there's an inherent problem with NFT-based games. For a second, let's say the team succeeds. They make a truly great game with fun gameplay, and because it's fun, people want to play it more. So they'll get more drops within the game, and because of the laws of supply and demand, once the market is flooded with items, the price of those items inherently has to go down. Most crypto games try to fix this by adjusting drop rates and artificially limiting the number of certain in-game items, but there are 2 problems with that. First, it goes against the whole idea of the player-ran economy, because the game developers act as a central bank and make major changes to balance the economy that players have zero control over. And second, they can't make the drop rates too low because the part of the player base that's in it for the money will leave. Now, on one hand, I kind of feel for the team because they have to balance the money-hungry crypto bro audience demands with actually making a fun game. But on the other hand, they're the ones that decided to create a money-grubbing NFT game, so it's kind of on them. But that's not even the biggest problem, because ultimately, the amount of money flowing into the game has to be more than the amount of money flowing out of the game. But if I told you, hey, put in $100 in this game and you'll get back $95, you'd be like, what the heck, no. But what if I told you, hey, put in $10 to buy this NFT and $30 to buy this one, which you need to make money, then you also need to buy these 2, and for this one, and for another one, buy this one, buy this one. And by the end, you'll get out $95. Because the whole part of the process is so convoluted, it makes it seem like that $95 is great even when you've put in that same $100. I mean, the developers, they need to make money to keep the lights on, so I don't see any way this can change. So what's the final verdict? Is this game fun for someone who doesn't care about crypto? It could be. And after the tutorial, I did have some moments where I felt that dopamine release. They weren't frequent, and they wouldn't keep me coming back, but if making this game fun was their only priority, I think they could do it. I think they could get there, because I can tell they're trying, and it is more of a game than a lot of other crypto games. But this game is held back by the very simple fact that creating a game that is fun and creating a game that can make players money are on 2 opposite sides of the spectrum. Because for a supposedly powerhouse studio full of AAA experts, a game that's been in development for nearly 3 years and one that's raised basically $80 million in funding, this is a disappointment. Even according to their dev team, the game is just 10% done with development, and at this pace, probably won't be released until like 2035, which is after they fleeced the entire crypto world for an additional $800 million in mystery boxes, fake digital land, and whatever else they can come up with. The whole valuation of crypto games is based upon this idea that
these games will go mainstream super soon, bro, and once all the gamers get into it, bro, it's going to be absolutely explode, bro.
The thing with video games, though, is you don't just have to make a fun game. You have to make a fun game that's more fun than the other options. And looking at the state of this game right now, none of the people I know who actually play video games for fun would ever play this mess. And I'm afraid that no matter what Big Time does, that's not going to change because they have to prioritize the game's economy over pure, unadulterated fun. Of course, this isn't the only game that has been corrupted by crypto and NFTs. Many games don't even make an attempt to pretend like they're not a cash grab, and they blatantly overpromise and underdeliver. Now, if you want to see an especially egregious example of a game just like that, then just click on the video on your screen and watch that video.